Greetings to all Kinggaters, great and small, trusting you are rejoicing in the goodness of the Lord, and so glad that God is not subject to circumstances and that He can help us and sustain us. I'm sure everyone is excited about the fact that the country's gone down to level 3 of the lockdown. But the question is, how does that affect us? What is it going to mean to us as a church and individually, of course? Now, one thing we've got to understand is that the safety of our people is of paramount importance. We've got to put that as number one. So in dealing with such delicate matters, there is the danger of being pressurized by people now to run ahead of ourselves and to start things up, and we haven't thought it through properly and we land up with problems, and we can't afford to do that. Now, after consulting with the elders of our church as well as with several pastors in our community that I'm in relationship with, we all agree that it would be irresponsible to open our churches on the first Sunday of June, because we haven't had enough time to prepare for things that has to happen, and we feel that we still need to see where it's going, because the fact that the country's gone down to level 3 does not mean it is safer, because they're saying the COVID virus is going to peak June, July, August in our country. That's when it's going to reach its maximum contamination. So actually we're in a dangerous time period as well. So we don't want to open our church meetings straight away. Now, if you consider the stringent protocols that are needed to be in place for us to open our place of worship together, a lot of people don't understand that and don't realize that. Okay, they say a maximum of 50 people. So what happens if 75 people rock up? We've got to say to 25 of them, sorry, you can't come in. Now, people may think, well, how about if we have 2 services and so on and so forth? When you look at the protocols that need to be in place, 2 services is just going to be an impossibility to manage. So people older than 60, of course, shouldn't be going out anyway, according to what the regulations say. And anybody that is high risk with TB or obesity or diabetes or anything like that shouldn't be going out anyway. Do you also realize that the protocol demands that we measure the temperature of every person before they come into the hall? And that instrument that you measure with will cost 2,000 Rand each, or more than 2,000 Rand each. Okay, so that is going to be a bit of a difficulty considering our financial state at the moment. Also, every person needs to fill in a questionnaire, a form, before they are allowed into the church services, which is really going to be tedious for each one to have to stand there and fill in a form before they can come in. Also, the building needs to be sanitized before people arrive and sanitized after people leave. The chairs have to be sanitized. The door handles have to be sanitized. The toilets have to be sanitized. The floor has to be sanitized. Anything else people are handling and touching. If they go into other parts of the building, like the children's church area or whatever, it's all got to be sanitized again. If they go into the office, it's got to be sanitized. If they go into the mother's room, that has got to be sanitized. And by the way, babies aren't permitted to come into gatherings like this at this particular point in time. Then also, besides all those things, everybody's got to wear a mask throughout the service, okay? And everybody's got to observe social distancing, no closer than 1.5 meters to each other. So that is going to mean pushing the chairs quite far apart. There's no hugging being allowed. There's no handshaking being allowed. And these are all things that could, make people feel uncomfortable and think, is it really worthwhile? So gatherings at this stage in our service is not going to be as much fun as people had anticipated or hoped for. It's really going to be a tedious business, okay? So we're also not going to have children's church this month at all, and we'll reevaluate it at the end of the month and see if we need to continue with that. There'll be no youth during this time. There'll be no Kingsgate prayer ministry taking place at this time because it's a high contact ministry. You've got to anoint people with oil. You've got to lay hands on people, and that is just not allowed with social distancing, okay? The Kingsgate Extension College is not going to gather for lectures at this particular point in time, we're going to perhaps launch into Zoom lectures so that they can all just tap into this through their phones and have lectures like that. And only when it comes to exam times will we be able to bring them into the hall to write exams. And with certificate courses, only 4 students, and diploma courses, only 4 students. So it's easier to sanitize the place for just such a small gathering to be there. And they can have their mask on and it won't be a problem. So the offices, our office will be closed except for essential things that need to be done, like if photocopies need to be done of stuff and so on, then either Michelle or myself can come in and be able to do that. The Saturday morning prayer gate will also continue to be a Zoom meeting. We're not going to meet at the hall yet for that, and we've been having great times. I mean, we've had 16, 18 people coming to our Saturday Zoom meeting, coming online for that, and people have really enjoyed it and said, wow, this has been terrific. So please be encouraged to be part of that as well. Okay, so the presbytery have decided that we'll re-evaluate things at the end of June, and then see how things are going country-wise and whatever the case might be. Now, there is also the financial impact that we need to understand. In the United States, they're saying that the average church has suffered a 25 to 50% financial loss over this period of time. And especially for mega churches, that have got tremendous property debt. They've got great bonds to pay off or rentals. And some of them, because of their lack of income, they are unable to pay off that anymore. And some of them are considering to close their doors. They can't continue to operate as a church anymore. So they also, you get hyper spiritual people and even leaders that say, we're going to trust God, because the Lord says, don't forsake the gathering of yourselves together. And how can the government then forbid us to gather together? They all forget that the Lord also says, submit to those in authority over you and obey them. And that is secular government as well, so that we can work together as a country. So this is it, this one pastor also said, no, he's going to continue to go from the beginning of the lockdown, he's going to have services. Well, within 2 months, he died from the COVID-19 virus, and 20 to 30 people in his congregation had contracted the virus as well. So, it's really an irresponsible thing to do if you're not directed by the Lord. And some people claim to be directed by the Lord, but then it works out very badly in the end anyway. Okay, now, even with Kingsgate, there's been a drastic drop in our income as a congregation, and of course that just means that certain things can't be paid if we don't have the money. There are certain salaries that can't be paid at the moment, and we're trusting God to really give us a breakthrough. Now, you may be at a high faith level to say, well, I'm trusting God that this thing is not going to touch me, but you may be unwittingly carrying the virus. And so you're in contact with people and somebody else may get the virus from you. And what if they died? Because you passed on the virus to them. So this is something we've got to take very seriously. So let's stand together in prayer for a national breakthrough, that the Lord will help this country to get rid of that COVID-19 virus and be free from that. Pray for the government, because they're under tremendous pressure. And, with our state president, you can see the stress on him because, like with many other things, whatever decisions they come to, some people will be happy and some people will be unhappy. If they go this way, there will be people that will be happy and unhappy. If they go that way, there will be people that will be happy and unhappy. Always think back of Winston Churchill saying, you can please all the people some of the time, and you can please some of the people all the time, but you can never please all the people all the time. So this is just something that we need to understand as well. So pray for the president, pray for the government, that the Lord will direct them by his Spirit in making decisions that are going to be best for the overall country. Be ready to encourage people. When you're going to the shop or whatever the case might be, there's such a negative atmosphere around with so many people. Either they're frightened or they're just lost hope about ever recovering from this, or whatever the case might be. Don't get involved in the negative talk there. As Christians, we need to be people of hope. We need to spread hope and say, well, I'm trusting God. If people say, well, I'm afraid I'm saying, well, I'm trusting God for things like this. And then help carry the financial burden. And if you know that there are people in Kingsgate that are desperate, they have no food, they have no form of income, we need to know about that so that we can see where we can help. And God may lay upon your heart to be able to help somebody else that is in a desperate situation. So this is all I'm going to announce at this particular point in time. As we go along and we come across, and we come to more detailed decisions, we'll pass this on to you as well. So I speak blessing and peace and favor upon each and every one of you, that the Lord will strengthen you over this time, that you'll really get to a place of greater intimacy with God. During this time, spending time in His Word, spending time in prayer, just waiting upon Him, learning to hear His voice so that you can be directed. When this lockdown is over, you will be able to be directed by the Spirit. You'll hear accurately what the voice of the Lord is all about. So God bless you all, love you all, and keep pressing in with God. Amen.